Welcome to the Oh Brother podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Welcome back, Dan.
Hey, man.
Been on vacation.
Yeah, it's March 18th, 2021.
It's a long time.
And we're back for another episode. This time we're going to do a review of the Oscar-nominated film Minari, and directed and written by Lee Isaac Chung. So we'll get into that in just a minute. If you are not currently following us, make sure that you do. Easiest way to find all things Oh Brother is to go out to our official website, which is ohbpodcast.com. That's OHB as in brother, podcast.com. And you can find links and access to all of our episodes, both on all the podcast platforms, and also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch our episodes out there if you want, like our videos.
Well, you noticed I must have made eye contact or something.
You're always like on the verge of leaning in.
No, I just had a
something.
question, because say I'm not accessing this through the internet or I'm in my car.
He's an editor's nightmare, folks.
No, say I'm in my car and I'm listening to Apple Podcasts. When I go in and I try to search OHB podcast, nothing comes up. But when I put in Oh Brother, the podcast comes up.
Why would you search for OHB podcast?
Because I thought that's how we were listed everywhere.
Yeah, as I said, this will get edited out. It's like I'm constantly I'm half host and half editor all the time, because I'm like, okay, what is he going to say now that I have to chop?
I am trying to make it easier for people to find us, because people say to me sometimes,
nobody says
how
anything
do I
to
find
you?
You
Nobody says anything to you.
Oh, I get hit on the street all the time.
Okay, well then just tell mom to leave you alone. almost had an Oh Brother spit take.
Yeah,
folks.
spit take there. Didn't get it up high enough.
Little classic Carson move there. So yeah, look, if you go to whatever Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever it is, just search for Oh Brother, Brother.
Okay,
and you'll find us. But again,
so I get so caught up in the OHB, and
but before
I tend to go to the website.
Well, before I was so rudely interrupted, I was making it easy on everyone by saying, go to our official website to find all things Oh Brother.
But if you don't have access to the web, that's where I'm coming in. That's where I'm saying, hey, we need,
Okay. So
if you just
Mike wants to apparently appeal to the 1/8 of 1% of the population at this point.
Hey,
good Lord.
Us low tech people.
Well, that's kind of an appropriate segue ultimately into this this movie, when we're going to talk about sort of bringing it back to pre-internet days, but because we're going to go back to the 1980s with talking about this film. But before that, can I finish?
Go, please.
Can I finish?
Please do.
Zabadoo, zabazig, zabazoo. What was that? Carvey? Dana Carvey, remember that?
It must be. It sounded like a little Farley.
It was, what it was? It was Ross Perot. Remember he did that interview, the impression of Ross Perot?
Yeah.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Yeah.
Can I finish? Can I finish? That's what it was. Funny. That's actually a pretty good Ross Perot, I got to say.
Not bad.
So,
considering the guy's been dead for 10 years.
Really? And, well, anyway, so go out to our official website. You not only get access to all of our episodes, we've got a blog out there, we've got film reviews, all kinds of content out there for you to check out. So that's really the easiest way. And right now, again, before we jump into the review, we are doing a giveaway right now. So we did an episode back in January reviewing the film News of the World, starring Tom Hanks. And if you would like to get your hands on a free copy of that Blu-ray, and News of the World is coming out on 4K and Blu-ray March 23rd. So Oh Brother has 3 copies. Freebies to give away. All you have to do, if you want to get your hands on one of those copies, is follow us on Instagram. Okay, first of all, that is at OHB Podcast. We're at OHB Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, but you got to follow us on Instagram. We have a post out there that was actually posted today, March 18th, about the giveaway and the release of the Blu-ray. You got to like that post, and then in the comments, tag a friend to enter to win. That's it.
That's
Now
it.
you can
Free
even
movie.
you can even tag a friend in the comments and tag multiple friends if you want to increase your chances to win. The more friends you tag, the better your chances of winning. So again, News of the World is out on 4K and Blu-ray March 23rd. And Oh Brother is your spot for the hookup for free copies.
Movies.
So,
We tried free movies once before, and people weren't. We made it so ridiculous. It was like, just check something, and we'll send you a movie.
I was recently watching the old Jeopardy skits on SNL with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And when we have like Burt Reynolds and Sean Connery would be always busting his chops.
Right.
And it was one end of one of the episodes where he's like, just write a number.
Yeah.
Any number at all and you win.
Yes.
It's so ridiculous.
No, Sean, that's a letter. That's clearly
Right.
a letter.
And then
That's
it was always
N.
Suck it, Trebek.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a giveaway opportunity for you.
Doesn't get easier.
It doesn't get any easier than that. And I got to tell you, had to look at the digital version of this movie. Really sweet transfer. So to get this, on Blu-ray, and it's going to be nice. So again, comes out March 23rd. Okay, that's it for the business. Let's get into the review. Talking about Minari.
Before we do, since we're diving into our...
Hold on. Let me put on my editing hat real quick. Okay, go ahead.
Lord. Since we're diving into the snobbish area of the award shows, that's a little snobby. People...
Why is it snobby? You don't...
No, I'm not. We're not talking about the movie yet. I'm talking about what's behind me. I just put out some snobby stuff for this episode.
Yeah, but again, don't make assumptions that it's snobby.
Well, we'll talk about it because I want to bring that up.
Okay. So
whenever something, how many subtitled movies are in your collection?
I don't know, less than 10?
Probably, yeah. And people will avoid a movie if it's not in English. And what I'm saying is don't. And behind me is some great examples. Rafifi is an awesome, modern. It's not a modern day, but it's a classic, break in, break out kind of a movie. And then I'd love to talk to Johnny Durango about Three Colors, which is a French trilogy. That's 3 movies. Julie Delpy is in one of them. Juliette Péniche is in one of them, and 3 of the best looking movies you'll ever see ever. I mean, even if you don't read the captions, you'll just be stunned by the Blu-ray. And I also wanted to give a shout out. If you haven't seen Parasite yet, which won the Academy Award last year, see it. It's fantastic. And then I wanted to give a special shout out to me, the real queen of female directing, which is a big deal this year. We've got 3 women up for Academy Award for Best Directing, and Chloe Zavitz won the Golden Globe. This is Ida Lupino, one of the original directors.
Did you say Chloe Zavitz? Chloe Zhao. Where did you get Zavitz?
I don't know. I was thinking of someone else.
Okay, folks. As I said, editing hat is intact. You can't see this
behind the editing board and shut up.
You can't see this, folks, but this is I'm giving the international symbol for let's move it along.
It's clear that I'm the talent and you are the editing
10 minutes.
guy.
10 minutes in, and we haven't even talked about Minari. All right.
Let's do it.
That's way to up the listenership, folks. Okay, so
you want
anything
me to give
else?
The synopsis?
No. Would you like to maybe run through every film that you have behind you first, and then we can get into Minari?
Well, we'll get into Minari.
Starting with the letter A.
Yeah. First is the numbers, then the letter A.
So Minari, directed and written by Lee Isaac Chung. Now it was interesting. I just watched not the entire thing. I got through maybe three quarters of it. A really awesome roundtable, I'll call it. It was, of course, on Zoom with, I believe it was with the Hollywood Reporter, and I follow them, on Instagram. But anyways, it was Gary Oldman, Steven Yeun, Sacha Baron Cohen, Ben Affleck,
All
and
nominees or former nominees or
um,
winners.
from Tenet, David, is it David George Washington? Am I getting his name right?
I'm
The
not
star of
sure.
Tenet,
Yeah. Yeah,
Denzel's
yeah, yeah.
son. Yeah. And then gosh, who's the older guy from Defy Bloods, the Spike Lee movie that's out now? And he's been in like four other Spike Lee movies. I have to look his name up, which is
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah,
But
I
anyways,
know.
it was a round table with all these guys, a few of them that were directors and actors. So they had both, perspectives. And Steven Yeun at one point was talking about Minari, and he found out, I guess, by being connected with the film, that he was related to Lee Isaac Chung.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, they're like cousins or whatever. And he had met him at a wedding like 10 years ago,
Wow.
apparently. And so it's just kind of this wild sort
Were
of.
they both like in the industry at the time? I know Steven was.
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think he
Wow.
he definitely goes back to that point. And in fact, I think Steven even talked about having seen one of his films or something, and so he kind of knew of him, but had no idea there was a relation, which was kind of
That's
strange.
wild.
So
That's
it's pretty
wild.
wild and interesting. Just as we get into talking about the film, family relationships and things, that's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting connection. So I would recommend to you and
Yeah.
anybody listening to check that out. Look it up on
Yeah.
YouTube.
I would like to check it out.
It was really fascinating. I mean, Ben Affleck had some real powerful, uh, you know, uh, comments and things to say. There was a little bit of sort of them going back and forth, just almost as fans of each other.
Hmm.
And it was really interesting to hear them talk about their craft and how they get into it and just all that sort of stuff. So I think you'd find it interesting. But
Yeah.
so, anyways, do you want to, as we typically
Yeah,
do,
I'll do
give
the
us the setup?
synopsis.
Yeah.
Basically, we're dealing here with a Korean family. We're introduced to right away. They
And to your point earlier, the reason you brought that up is a subtitled film.
yes,
So,
and so anyways, we're introduced to this Korean family that are moving. They lived in California, had a really small place, and they got this opportunity to move to
rural Arkansas.
Arkansas in the Midwest. And it was very exciting to the husband because it's a huge chunk of land that they were going to, that would come with the job. And the job wasn't the greatest job in the world. It's like sorting out chickens.
Chicken sexing.
Yeah, chicken sexing, because the female chickens lay the eggs, blah, blah, blah. The male chickens
as
don't.
as
It's
tends to
not a
be our
good.
lot in life.
It's not a good.
It's
Not a good day for them.
not a good day for the chickens. Yeah.
So the job, which would hire both the husband and wife, um, they would be able to work there. And at the same time, he has this dream to create Korean vegetables, fresh, right there in the Midwest. And people wouldn't have to go overseas because a lot of that stuff is shipped in. It's not real fresh. It's not like you were talking where you recently went to a farmer's market,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, there isn't a farmer's market, right around the corner that sells fresh Korean vegetables. And that was his dream, to own his own farm, not necessarily his wife's dream.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts out, the movie begins with their journey, the husband driving the U-Haul basically with all their stuff, the wife following, and they have two kids, very cute daughter and a very young son. And That's basically the setup for the film.
I didn't pick up on the fact, it's a minor detail, but you had mentioned that the job opportunity called them there, and the farm, the land, and what is actually a mobile home on
Right,
concrete
right,
blocks
right.
came with it. I didn't realize that had anything to do with the job. I never picked up on that. I thought
Yeah,
it
that
was
was part of the deal.
okay. I thought he took whatever money he had saved up and bought that plot of land, and then maybe they moved out there because of the job opportunity, but thought he moved out because he said this. There's a scene early on where he says this is the best soil in America.
Yes,
So I thought
yes,
he just, because of his dream to be a farmer, he targeted this plot of land. He had money saved up. He bought it.
yes.
And then they found a place, a hatchery nearby where they could do what they were doing in California, this
Right.
chicken sexing. So,
And there's also it's a little into the film, but it's important, I think, up front to know this, that he's used to sending money back home. This happens, this is something that in today's society, there's a lot of talk about immigration and how some immigrants, they work here, they work really hard, they send money home to their
yep,
relatives.
sure.
And that's one of the deals with him. He's been taking care of his family, and early on, his wife, right from the get-go, when she sees the mobile home, that it's a mobile home, right away she's like, she won't even let him help. There's no stairs to
Right.
get into the mobile home. And the kids are like, tires? Why is our house on tires? And he has to actually help her into the mobile home. And she doesn't want the help.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want your help.
And at one point she says it actually gets worse or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So she is not happy
No.
with this move. But part of the reason they made the move was she's not the fastest sorter of chickens in
Right.
California.
She's not the most efficient chicken sexer.
Right, but in Arkansas,
She's
she's
just
just
fine.
fine. She's
Mm.
just fine. And he's like, a whiz at
Yeah.
sorting these chickens.
He's like known in the business almost.
Yeah,
He's got a
he's like,
reputation.
he
Yeah.
is the chicken guy.
Right. Mr. Jacob.
So that's the setup. And
Right.
and again, they speak Korean throughout, although you see at times he's working with his son and daughter on speaking English,
Right.
but it's mostly Korean throughout.
Yeah. And I think at the core of it, the film is really, it's just about family and relationships. That's really what it's about at its core. And the it's so interesting because Steven Yeun's character Jacob, and of course we know Steven from The Walking Dead. Everybody knows him from The Walking Dead, but um, he befriends this local named Paul,
Yes,
played by the wonderful Will Patton,
man,
who
he is so good.
here's another guy like Clancy Brown, or yeah, is it Clancy Brown that we mentioned has this you've seen him in like every film
Right,
you've ever watched.
right.
And I will say, quick side note with Will Patton, because if folks have not seen the film No Way Out with Kevin Costner, one of Kevin Costner's first films, I
Very
believe.
early,
Yeah,
very early. Made him a
it's
star.
it's a really good film, and Will Patton's performance in that film is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of an like a sleeper, so it's probably not in anybody's top 10 list, but it's a really good
It,
film, and I always loved him in that.
and normally you wouldn't he's a supporting character on the fringe, so to
Hmm.
speak, but he's so important. And he's so eccentric in this,
Yes,
and he looks much older. When I first saw his voice,
very
is as soon as you hear the voice, you're like, I know who that is.
right,
And
right.
then you got to kind of look and
Yeah,
brush away the dirt and some of the makeup to say, oh,
he's a bit of a doppelganger for Ed Harris, I would always think.
yeah,
He's a bit of in that category. Yeah, he really, you're right. I mean, he sort of is a central figure, and certainly in the relationship between him and Steven's character.
Yes.
when at times when Steven's trying to get this farm going and define the water and just all the things that go into trying to farm this huge chunk of land,
Right.
you know, Will's character is just the one that's sort of, he's very religious.
Yes.
And so he brings a lot of hope and optimism and this sort of bright outlook on things, no matter how dark it might be.
And he's very, it's like I said, he's eccentric. He'll go off on a, or there'll be something and he'll just go off on, oh Jesus, like,
he'll start he'll
feel the
start
power.
start speaking in tongues almost.
Yes.
And then at one point there's a scene where they see him uh carrying a cross
Yes.
down the middle of the street because
they're
it's
like,
Sunday and
yes,
he's honoring
that's
the
what
Lord.
that's part of what he does.
That's right. That's right.
And they want to give him a ride. Hey, we can put the cross on the top of the wagon.
But it's just an honest, good natured person and a really hard worker. I mean, he's responsible for a lot of getting the farm going. In the first
and
place.
you see, I can't understand why anyone would want to do this work. It's just grueling work. And they really kind of show that in some of the challenges with water. And, right away, very early in the film, there's like, the divining rods.
Yes.
Those people that kind of find water.
Right.
And I've always thought that was a scam. And a guy is trying to sell him on, hey, let me,
Sure.
I've got my twigs. Just put
Yes.
down some water and I'll find it. And
Which
course,
later Will calls back to in kind of a joking moment between him and Steven. He says, "Hey," and he has like a branch.
And you say family. Now, it's also important to know the husband and wife are struggling in the beginning of this movie, right from the jump. There's a struggle. She doesn't want to be there. She's already talking about going back to California, telling the kids, don't unpack it. What do we do with these pictures? Don't unpack them because we're going back home. And so they wind up fighting a lot and arguing, and it affects the kids quite a bit, which I thought that was a really, a very kind of sincere way to show the reality of the situation, how the parent struggle falls upon the kids. And the little boy has trouble.
He's a bedwetter.
He's a bedwetter.
He's a bedwetter, yeah.
And that becomes kind of a side story. But ultimately, what they decide to do is bring in
the grandmother,
his wife's mother.
Yeah, Sun Ja is her name or character's name, and I may not get her real name, but it's Youn Yuh-jung. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but and she's a very, very well-known Korean actress.
Yes,
and very quickly, just to say, all of the performances were just, in my opinion, very spectacular. I thought that
the kids
were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. And Steven, of course, and we can talk about this a little bit at the end of the episode, but Steven, of course, has been nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
First Asian American ever to be nominated.
That's amazing.
And Yeri Han, who plays Monica, his wife, is nominated for Best Supporting Actress as well.
Yes.
And so, want to make sure to point that out. But yeah, those main performances are just, it's wonderful to see them on screen.
There's the old joke, never work with kids or
animals. Right.
And I got to say, I don't know how old that boy was. Can't be more than 7.
It's incredible.
What a performance.
Yeah. I mean, and all the range of emotions and, there's some drama, there's a lot of humor, there's, which is something to point out because people you might not get that from trailers or little snippets, but there's quite a bit of humor throughout this film too.
Yes. This was a surprise winner at the Golden Globes. And because I remember the speech, and he was holding his daughter. And I'm trying to think of what the award was. It was
you talking about the director, Lee Isaac Chung?
Yeah. What award did he win? Was it director? or was it screenplay? I
I'm
forget
not
what it
sure.
was,
I don't recall. Yeah.
but I remember it was kind of a surprise, a
Hmm.
surprise winner at the Golden Globes. But when you see it, you're like, no, I get it.
And
I totally get it.
this was shot in 25 days,
Wow.
which
That
is
that's even
hard to believe.
more remarkable when you're talking about dealing with child actors.
Yeah.
Um, that because I just can't. I always think back to E.T. and what was his name? Thomas.
Oh yeah.
Um, he played. He went on to
Jeez, that's
play like
terrible.
Anthony Perkins in one of the like Psycho 4 or something. But he's done a whole lot.
Right. I
His
just want
last
to say,
name's Thomas, I think.
I just want to say Elliot.
I know.
Elliot.
I always thought that was the best child performance we'll ever see was in ET.
Yes, but he
However, over the years, I don't know what it is, but kids are getting they're just natural.
well, and the young girl that's in News of the World.
I
Look,
know.
she was nominated.
Who else? There was somebody else. Well, she's also very young from Barat. The
Yes,
girl,
sure. Yeah,
right?
she's
We've
young.
seen a
Yeah,
lot of great
yeah.
young
Th-
men.
these kids in particular were just wonderful, and the way they played off each other, and
Yeah,
the grandmother you started to talk about. She eventually comes to visit and stay with them, and she's this sort of foul mouthed, loose talking grandmother, very unorthodox or whatever. In fact,
yeah,
the one kid is always like, "You're not a real grandmother.
yeah.
Real grandmothers bake cookies and they don't swear."
That's right.
You know,
The little boy, the son, has a real problem with grandma.
yeah, and we don't want to give away too much, but there's just some great moments between the two of them
Yeah.
and how that relationship develops throughout the film.
Yes. Yes.
That alone would be worth watching it, I would say, and I would absolutely recommend people watching this film.
Yeah, I give it a high recommend as well. And
Now,
it's
can you
go ahead.
speak about the title? Do you have any thoughts about sort of the metaphor with Minari? This
Yeah,
this herb that
and what
they're
Minari is, like if you were to think of it in the American sense, it's like a garnish, like parsley,
yeah.
where it's a garnish on a
It
dish.
goes by a
But
lot of different names, but Minari is how it's known in Korea.
right, and they eat it, you know, alone like a salad.
Sure.
It's not just like a garnish to make the plate look pretty.
Right.
It's an important part of the meal. And um but yeah, go ahead with the metaphor.
And
Like
it's resilient. Well, I just think of, it's almost like if you saw it as you do in the film, the way the grandmother uh, goes to grow it on the side of a hill
correct.
beside a creek,
Like out nowhere
middle
where
of
nobody can
nowhere.
see it.
But she's like, this is the perfect spot
Exactly.
because it's a resilient herb that can grow lusciously in a location like that. And I think just that very simple description
Yeah,
speaks a lot about the themes in the movie.
right. And for me, I didn't want to say any more because I don't want to spoil,
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, the ending or there's a piece that I just don't want to spoil
Yeah,
and let people, see that for themselves.
yeah.
But don't avoid this movie. And I tend to do it too. I've got these great movies that I
Because of the
just
subtitles.
recommended because of the subtitles. I'll tend to like when I'm flipping around and you know me, I'm always looking for a movie, something different. And I'll tend to like, oh, this is subtitles. I don't want to do that much work. Like it's work to read.
Well, that I'm glad you said that because I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this as well, which is, man, in the news the last couple weeks at least. And I know this isn't new news, but speaking of news of the world, um, all of the hate crimes on the Asian community
Yeah.
that have been in the headlines, and we just had this. It's interesting because with COVID, right? It's whoa, school shootings are down and like mass shootings are down. I kind of always took note of that. How that just interesting that didn't seem to be a daily headline as it was pre-COVID.
Right.
And what happened yesterday? We had this mass
terrible
shooting.
shooting in Atlanta,
Right.
and
8 people dead.
eight
Yeah.
women.
And I think they were all Asian women, right?
The 8 women that were killed, I think more people were killed. 6 of the 8 killed were Asian
Yeah.
American women.
And so
And there's been a lot, like you say, there's been a lot of hate crimes to the Asian community ever since. And you can look to our former leader for a lot of the reason for that.
well, I think another point is that it's not new. It's not new, but
No,
now it seems
no,
like there's like a resurgence all of a sudden. But it's an article I was reading before we got on air about it, and how just a lot of them aren't reported as hate crimes, and so a lot of the
right.
stuff we're not even aware of is happening, and yet it's so prevalent in these communities. And
Yeah. And when you talk to people of Asian descent, they talk about how that's how they're brought up. They're brought up not to, cause trouble, to stay quiet, kind of the invisible person in the room.
to keep
Um,
peace,
yeah,
you know.
keep the peace. You don't, you know, like you don't complain about something. You don't go to your boss. Um, I had a lot of interaction when I was in my doctorate at USD with Chinese individuals in the Chinese community in San Diego, and it was really an education for me. I didn't realize even my own stereotypes until I talked to people and heard them talk, and I would think, God, I think I've done that or thought that or
Well, that's why I felt it was necessary to mention it in your comment, is what made me think about it, because that's sort of the stance that oftentimes we take is, well, that's too much effort for me, or you need to acclimate and conform to my ways. And,
correct.
why should I make the effort and so forth? But having said that, watching this film, I would almost feel confident saying, as I did, the subtitles are going to become so immediately secondary to
Yeah.
it. It just didn't even register as an issue at all.
And in great films, that's always the case.
Sure.
And this about, well, our mother is very hard of hearing, close to deaf, but has some hearing. But it's tough because you're frustrated. I always feel like I'm yelling at her.
Yeah, but it was a great advantage as a kid.
Yeah, we could get away with
Get
all
away with a
sorts of
lot of stuff.
stuff.
Oh
But
God, it's terrible.
but because of growing up with her, I've gotten
Yeah.
so used. I watch TV or movies with subtitles.
Yep.
I don't care what it is. If it's, you know, some really common movie, The Grinch or something, I put the subtitles on.
Yeah.
And I always find that I don't care what language it's in, I always learn more from the
Well, yeah,
subtitles.
there's certain things, yeah, you can miss
Yeah.
otherwise. So
And they pop out, or somebody will talk and they'll say it kind of quiet and you don't quite hear it, but you see it.
yeah.
So I even, when you go to the movies now, or when you could go to the movies, now movies are equipped with, you can say, I want to have subtitles, and you get this arm that you
Right.
put in the cup holder,
Hmm.
and it puts subtitles like right where they would normally be. And I always do that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of been a somewhat of a part of our lives for a long time. This, I want to say that this uh the director Lee Isaac Chung, this was actually, he took a lot of this from his own experiences. I don't know if
Hmm.
you realize his growing
Yes.
up in rural Arkansas, actually. So,
Yes.
and I read that he didn't even tell his family about making the film until after it was shot, and he was in the editing room like finalizing it, because
Really.
he was so concerned about how they might react, and they're very private people, and all of these sort of things. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
So
Uh,
so some of the characters must have resembled people from his real life, I'm
I
assuming.
have to believe, yeah.
Yeah.
And we a lot of times we'll mention Rotten Tomatoes, and this is, I mean, you're talking 98% critics, 91% audience. So it is certainly echoing what I think we're both saying, which is highly recommending this film to
Yes, and
watch.
I think the sin is a lot of people might skip it, or this might be, we're talking about the Academy Awards coming up. This is one of 8
Right.
films this might be the one people say, "Oh, I can't get see all of them," and they'll put this one on the back burner, or like Parasite. I bring it up because I so many people I've talked to haven't seen it yet, and it
Yeah.
was the winner.
No, put this one
It's
towards the top of the
fantastic.
list for
Yeah,
sure. In fact, let's move into the Oscars here before we wrap.
yeah,
I don't know what I don't want to go through every category, but we can talk
no,
about the certainly the best picture nominations. And uh, I mean, Mank, what is going on with Mank? Now I told you I've tried to watch this film twice and I still can't get through it. Now there's there's no argument that it's a beautifully directed film. That kind of goes
yeah,
without saying, right? Fincher, but it's so slow. I was so
very
bored.
slow.
The sing-songy dialogue was annoying to me. I just can't get through it. So I'm shocked to find that it's nominated for like every award at the Oscars all of a sudden. I don't
I
get it.
think I first of all, I didn't have the same reaction. Of course, I liked it.
Well, you didn't
Not
like it originally. You weren't a
yeah, I
huge
actually we were going to do a show on it.
right, and you were
And I
like that.
said,
And
"Dan,
in fact, you're the one that said, "Nah, this
I
is
said,
not."
Dan, skip that one. Let's go to and
That's
I
right.
knew because I knew it was going to appeal. I think it's a great movie. It's a great ending,
It's so hard to
but
watch,
it's
folks.
hard to get to that spot.
It's hard to get. It's so
I
hard to get to that spot.
if I was going to leave one off the list and not watch, it would be Mank.
Yeah. So best
Sorry,
picture.
sorry, David.
Yeah, so best picture, you've got The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony
Fantastic.
Hopkins, Judas and the Black Messiah, which of course we did an episode on that as well. Another
Awesome.
great film. Mank, Mike is recommending that, although
Yes.
Minari, we're both recommending Minari.
Yep.
Nomadland, also recommending Nomadland. We
Fantastic.
did an episode on that. Promising Young Woman,
Great.
but not as best picture, but wonderful
Not
film.
as best picture, but when
Wonderful
they
film.
moved to 8, and I think it was 10 before, so I think but when they moved it to 8, I have no problem with it being. I did in the Golden Globes. I thought they wasted a spot when
Yeah,
I said
yeah.
that. And I think my review was low on because sometimes when we review movies, we see it, especially you tend to
Mhm.
do it right up to the moment. Like right before we go live, you just finished a movie.
Right.
And I have a tough time doing that. I like to sit with the movie.
Yeah, I need to have it fresh in my head.
And I rewatched Fat Man, one of our
Or-
favorite movies of last year. And I was really like, well, it's a mild recommendation. It's okay. And then as we were talking through the episode, I kept pointing out things that I liked.
Mhm.
And I remember when we stopped recording, we spent another hour talking about the movie.
Well, I think that's a great thing about film and movies and art in general, right? It's like, you like when I go out to Disney, I always find something that I didn't see before,
Mm-hmm.
right? All the different various interpretations you can have of those kinds of things. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about it. So, you look at a review, like we have our film reviews out on the website, it's a snapshot in time, right?
Right.
So, um,
And things change.
things
And
change.
and
Sure.
I don't want somebody to not go or to go because of us. This is what I think.
It's
What do
our
you think?
opinions.
Yeah,
That's
what do
right.
you think?
That's right.
Now, I do try to stare people away when it's just a piece of junk like Wonder Woman 84. I'm
Ouch.
sorry.
Ouch.
And
I saw that coming.
I shouldn't say that, but there's some movies that are just not worth the money, not worth the effort, not worth the time.
Well, speaking of another one of those, The Trial of the Chicago 7, I would put that on my list. I know that you liked it. Johnny Durango liked that film as well, but
Yeah.
I just can't get on board with that one.
What I
now
don't understand with that is
Yeah.
how can that be up for best original
screenplay.
screenplay?
Yeah, I know you made that argument on the episode. Yeah,
Because it's from it's
just look at the
trial.
transcript. It's
Look
all
at the
there.
transcript from the trial.
Now
You
here's
get
one.
credit, and it won.
The last one I didn't see. I would like to see it. I'm intrigued by it, and I like Riz Ahmad, which is Sound of Metal, which I think
Yeah.
you'd want to see as a drummer.
Yes, I've seen some of it.
Because I
I
would
need
think
to finish it.
you'd have a critical eye on his skills. I'm sure he must have trained like
Oh,
incredibly
absolutely. The drumming is
phenomenal.
fantastic.
It's
Um,
you're like, wait a minute, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and he's
Yeah.
trained for like 2 months and whatever.
I know, and it's fantastic. And And also close to us because he's dealing with going deaf. That's the whole
Yeah,
point of the movie.
exactly.
So
Well, I mean, that's the main thing to talk about Best Picture. I don't know if there's any others you want to mention. I don't want to get bogged down in every single category, but is there something in particular you wanted to comment on
I
with?
just, to me, Nomad Land is the movie that should win,
Yeah,
and I think it should win for directing too.
yeah, yeah.
After that, I see it being very predictable as far as the actor.
And
And
director, you say even over Mank, because for Mank, I could see an argument for that for Best Director.
no, I think Nomadland
Really,
still.
that's
That would be my pick. That would be my vote. But
interesting.
I could see somebody voting for Mank. I could see a lot of the other films too. They were all good
Yeah,
as far as directing.
right.
Um, all of them. The real issue I have is with the actor, the best
Hmm.
actor, and Chadwick Boseman's fantastic. I'm so sad that
But you're hung up
Ro-
on the
I'm
possible
really hung up on that.
posthumous situation. Well,
I
would you
am.
have a problem with Heath winning it for the Joker?
I didn't.
Yeah.
In fact, I was rooting for him to win.
So it's no different.
And it's not really different, but it's a supporting role. It's such a
Right.
supporting role.
Right.
And if you see even Viola Davis, who is the most nominated African American woman in history now, she won for Fences with Denzel.
Hmm.
And if she was in the best supporting actress category, hands down she would win. And I think Chadwick Boseman, that's where he should be.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out. I mean, because that's a reasonable argument to make. Can we just give it to Sir Anthony Hopkins and call it a day? I mean, let's just be
That's
done with it.
that's who I would vote for. And I'll tell you, the directing, eh, and I'd like to get Johnny Durango's take on the cinematography. I think I asked him and he hadn't seen it yet.
Mm, yeah.
But the cinematography is like, wow.
So okay, so let's just talk about Best Actress then.
Yeah, what do you have there?
So Best Actress, we've got oh, I'm sorry, that's supporting role. We've got Viola Davis, Andra Day, which was the Billie Holiday film,
Yeah,
Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand, and Carrie Mulligan. I mean, I can't. There's a couple I haven't seen, so it's hard for me to say. But of what I've seen, I have to go with Frances McDormand.
that would be my pick. And I think this is what's happening. I might have mentioned this when we did our picks.
Splitting the vote,
I think the vote is getting split between Viola Davis
and Frances
and
McDormand
Frances McDormand.
could be an upset for the Oscar.
And that's why somebody is sneaking in. Carrie Mulligan won
Yeah.
the which one? The not the SAG, but one of the awards. She won it.
That's right. Yeah, was it? Yeah, the Critics' Choice. Critics'
Critics'
Choice.
Choice was no, it wasn't Critics' Choice, was it?
Yeah, I think it was Critics' Choice.
Okay,
Yeah,
it was, yeah.
yeah.
So she won for Critics' Choice.
I need to see Ma Rainey's Black Bottom because I really want to see Viola Davis's performance,
It's
and
fantastic.
it's not fair to make a judgment. Yeah, yeah. But
But
Frances
I don't think
McDormand
it's
is
best
just
actress. I don't
yeah.
think. I think it's best supporting
I
actress.
need to check that one out.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, all right. So there's a little bit of a commentary and a breakdown on a couple of the main
What we
categories.
expect. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll comment more on it as it gets closer, and then after the fact,
Like I
certainly.
said,
But
to make this point clear,
yeah,
Chadwick Boseman was fantastic, right?
right. Not taking anything away from his acting
I
ability.
think
Yeah,
his acting is I Black Panther. I loved him in that.
right. But time
Everything
on
he's in,
screen, the nature of his role, it's more
right?
of a supporting
I think it's a
category.
supporting
Yeah, I
actor
think that's a
role.
fair argument.
And this was a play. This is, that's why it's in the adapted screenplay because it's
Right,
adapted from a play.
right.
So, and when you watch it, you can tell. Whenever I watch a movie that's based on a play, you can tell because there's only a certain amount of sets and things like that. But I don't want to. I don't want people to think I'm hating on Chadwick Boseman or I think, you know, um,
Like, oh, they're just going to consider him
yeah, they're just
because
giving it to him. It's a
right.
fantastic performance, and I'm sure a lot of people are probably torn. And I think it would be natural for somebody to say, we're never going to get his talent again, which
Yeah.
is really the sad thing.
Yeah.
And might vote for him for that reason. I don't know. I don't think that was the case with Heath Ledger. I didn't think the same.
Yeah.
With that.
Well, there you have it. Our take on some of the Oscar nominations, and then also our recommendation for this film, Minari. It's really a wonderful film. So don't be turned off if you otherwise would be by a subtitled film. It's just a non-issue, quite frankly. So, and also before we wrap, let's just mention one more time, and also because we did an episode on it, but News of the World. If you want to get your hands on a free Blu-ray copy of News of the World, that's coming out on 4K and Blu-ray March 23rd, which is just next week. All you got to do is follow us on Instagram, which is @OHB Podcast. Follow us on Instagram. Look for the post about the News of the World giveaway, which was posted today to our account. Like that post, and in the comments, tag a friend to enter to win. That's all you got to do. Simple as that. Simple as that. And we'll have a free copy shipped to you. So it couldn't be any easier, right? Just follow us on Instagram, like that post, comment, tag a friend, and you could have a chance to win. So, well, there you have it. Review of Minari. That's going to do it for another episode of the Yo Brother podcast. Been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
Well, I'll see you in about a week because I'm going to watch the Zack Snyder cut. So, bye, everyone.